Hey, it's a little bit early.
Right.
It's 11:58. I know there are people probably waiting those next 2 minutes to join in. If you got folks that were looking to be a part of our conversation today in the Zoom room, feel free to jump in there. But also, if you got watch parties that you want to start, we're going to have a bit of a different conversation, keeping in mind that today is Juneteenth, one of the most important, but at the same time, one of the most unusual holidays that, to hit the calendar. We'll talk a little bit about history, but specifically, we're going to talk about our message and our movement, because as things change, as we get together and build for the next level, there are just so many things happening. Hey, did I see my brother Chuck there checking in? You out and about, sir?
It's not why I'm
All right. All right. So we're going to get started here in just a few minutes. And today, helping me is our co-host, Miss Angel Grice. Now, Angel, tell everybody a little bit about yourself as we get started. So you are actually brand new to our movement, but we're excited to have the opportunity to participate in our education process and conversation. What do you do with your days right now?
Well, right now I'm in travel,
You're
so I
in the
do
truck.
that. Yeah, I
In
do
the truck.
that also with trying to learn this new business.
Awesome. Awesome. So, an entrepreneur, and you're based in the where do you live?
Let's see.
Washington, D.C. And one of the things that I admire about Angel is that being new, she asked, well, what does it take to co host an event on Financial Friday? And really, it's a conversation. We're going to talk about mindset, we're going to talk about the message, and we're going to talk about money, if that's okay with everybody else out there. And everyone else gets to listen to us live and on person. But do me a favor, for those of you that are in the room with me on Zoom, text me and let me know where you're dialing in from, who invited you. And for those of you out there in the Facebook world looking at us on live, also let me know where you're from, who invited you, and any of you that are getting your watch party started. Here we go on screen. So again, happy Juneteenth. And I say it in a spirit of seriousness and really understanding the history of Juneteenth. Now, for those of you that don't know, matter of fact, for those of you that don't know, Abraham Lincoln signed the Declaration of Independence January 1st, 1863. Type that in your notes. January 1st, 1863. We celebrate Juneteenth on June 19th because on June 19th, 1865, the last slaves still working under oppression as slaves found out about the Emancipation Proclamation 2 years and 6 months after slavery was over. Now, process just that thought for a minute. Imagine what it would be like to have lived under a system of oppression for years and to have been free for 2 years, but still been working for free as a slave. It kind of makes you angry, doesn't it? I mean, being a slave anyway makes you angry, but just that idea that this is the official emancipation, the last slave set free in June of 1865. And if you do just that brief timeline of American slavery through segregation to our current years, I was watching a documentary on Netflix called The Wealth Gap. The Wealth Gap Explained. So if you get a chance, is really interesting, especially considering all the work that we do in the area of finance and financial education, why there's such a disparity in wealth. But thinking about the history, they say that we were brought to this country not to create wealth, but as a source of wealth. Matter of fact, much of the early currency had pictures of slaves in the field in certain states where it was legal. And there was a sister that was talking about just if you played the game of Monopoly, right? When it comes to the American dream, you played the game of Monopoly when it comes to the American dream, you can see that the starting point, what we've had to go through, it's a miracle that we live today to work toward the American dream, to think about the things that have happened with slavery and sharecropping and segregation and the whole civil rights movement, the gaps in education, the subprime mortgage scams, all of these different things contribute to where we are. But at the same time, we got to understand that at some point, as we understand that the struggle continues, we have a part in the fight, meaning each and every one of us has responsibility from where we are and what we can do to help other people understand first what we need to do to move forward. And more importantly, to go beyond helping them move forward. I want to say, hey, Fabian, Felicia, welcome. Good to see you guys out here in the Zoom room. So as we talk about that process, I want to share some statistics that I saw. So one thing that you may not know, I went to Frederick Douglass High School, and a part of our school motto is, if there is no struggle, there's no progress. So it's not a problem that the struggle continues. We just got to know what it is and not let anyone talk us out of our fight. If you're taking notes, write that down. Don't let anyone talk you out of your fight. Know that we got to evolve in the way that we think, the things that we learn, specifically educating ourselves on the nature of finance and the decisions that we make so that we can close this gap. Now, again, if you think about the wealth gap, the graph on the left shows the average family wealth for those born between the 40s and 50s. That's our parents' generation, right? Says they start off relatively similar, just coming out of that wartime and building up to starting at 3 times by the time they were in their 30s and 40s, 5 times by the time they reach their 50s, and as they age into their 70s, nearly $1 million gap in wealth. And it's not just that age group. In any age group, the numbers are staggering. It's important just to think about just that process of closing the gap, where for the average white family in America, net worth of $141,000 versus $13,000 or $11,000 in the Hispanic and Black communities. Part of that is education, but the thing that we're going to talk about today is the new free. So our subject for today is the new free is debt free. They say in Proverbs that the borrower is slave to the lender. So what does that mean to you, Fabian? I mean, if you really think about it, if right now you're in debt, you're still the servant to the person that has the money, whoever you borrowed from, and it's an ongoing sentence. And I just want to share some of the rules to educate in the process. So if we keep this concept in mind, the rich rules over the poor, borrower slave of the lender, let's talk about why that fits into our process. So again, I'll paint a picture up front, let you know where we came from, where we are, and what we have to do to get our house in order. And I'm one of those people. I'm committed. I'm so committed to coming out of our current situation, the pandemic, everything that's happening in our economy, better by helping other people learn better and do better things when it comes to money. Making sense so far?
Yep.
So as we build, so let's talk about the process. So as I go through the steps, this is our fundamental basic steps that we teach as a part of our Making Wealth Real movement, and especially with Extra Digit and the Power Builders, is just letting people know how to get your house in order. And the first step is to build that foundation, right? You got to have a mindset for abundance, for creating more than enough, but more importantly, for active education, for active specialized education on the things you need to do, a game plan. And I find the most important thing for me is a team of people that have locked arms around this idea and process of creating wealth for other people. That's step one. Now, next, Fabian, are you available on mute, or you get it's loud around you?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Next thing we look for is that written budget. To have a plan for your money. They say that a written budget is telling your money where to go so that you don't wonder where it went, right? And then next we have building that mini emergency fund, getting out of debt, building a true emergency fund, investing for long-term, and creating wealth. But today, as we talk about bondage, slavery, and creating net worth, you got to understand what net worth is. And net worth is not a statement of your personal value. Let me look at you and make sure that we see this. Net worth is simply the amount you own versus the amount you owe. The amount you own versus the amount that you owe, that's net worth. So if you look at the net worth statistics, the wealth gap is really that difference in how much we own versus the debts that have accumulated. And it turns out that 2/3 of the wealth in America is created through real estate and land. We got to put ourselves in position where we're investing in real estate, in land, in home ownership, in not just having our money go out the window through debts. Does that make sense, Fabian?
Yes, it does.
And here's the powerful thing. If you think about just taking a processed approach and building a plan, we can get out of debt at record speed. Now, one of the things that we offer, so before I share the education, I do let people know that if you're in debt, it's not your fault. I mean, they teach us and sell us on debt all day, every day, don't they, Fabian?
I mean, yes, they do.
What's the first thing they tell us that we need to borrow money for?
And the first thing, well, if you're trying to get a car, say get a loan.
Yep.
Then if you go to school, you don't have no money for that, get a loan.
Get a loan.
And then if you buy a house, they tell you get a mortgage. So,
right.
So we've been programmed to get in loans, get in debt.
Right. And think about how that ongoing process, because now that creates, if we think about what we're saying with Juneteenth, now that creates the new slavery, meaning we are physically free, legally free, but financially bound. And what they say about debt is if you don't have a plan for your money, and guess what they have planned for you?
They got a plan for your money. And it's not.
They got a plan to keep all your money all your life. And so in our communities, one of the things that I'm aggressively sharing with people is access to experts to help them get more money coming into their house, but at the same time, stop the bleeding. Because when we talk about the bloody mess, Fabian, it's really looking at this process and saying, okay, if you're saying get out of debt, why is it so urgent to get out of debt before we start to invest? And it's just that process for understanding the interest is the penalty you pay for the right to own something in advance that you cannot afford. Wise man told me that a couple of years ago, and I really started with the process. Now, Fabian, will you be my borrower for today's example?
Yeah, sure.
Just for the day. I know you're more aggressive about paying off debts than most people I know.
Right.
But here's what most people don't process about how debt and interest work against them. Because interest is the most powerful force in the world. Eighth wonder in the world is what Einstein said. If you know it, you get paid for it. If you don't, you pay it. So he said you owe $5,000. That's just an example. And on that $5,000, they send you a statement that says pay them $100 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your interest rate is 21%. Now, here's a place where I might be the only one, but I fell into a trap. You know what trap I fell into, Fabian?
What trap was that?
Simple math. I looked at those numbers. I said, okay, 5,000, now 20% of 5,000 is 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured if I got a $5,000 bill and a 20% interest payment, I'm gonna pay like $6,000. Anybody else fall into that trap?
Right.
But now here's the reality. Your monthly rate, what is actually happening is that 21% is being divided by 12. And that gives you 1.75%. 1.75% is your monthly rate. Everybody follow with me so far? If you're following me, thumbs up on the chat on the inside, people out there in the world. If you got a 1.75% monthly rate, then your principal payment, your interest payment is the amount you owe. That's 0.175 times 5,000. I'll cheat for you. You don't have to pull out the calculator today. But that says that it's $87.50. $87.50. Matter of fact, those of you that are at home with your calculators, get them out. Check my math so that you can do this with your bills. Now your principal payment is $1,250. So it's just $100 minus $87.50. So $87.50 is going to them as profit. Only $12.50 is going towards paying off the $5,000 that you borrowed in that $100 payment.
Wow.
So the reality is that take that $5,000 and divide it by $12.50. It'll take you 400 months to pay off just $5,000. And is the time the biggest issue? It's not the time. It's not the time, it's the money. I mean, it's not the money, it's the time, because 400 months divided by 12, that's 33 years of bondage. And during that time that the bank earns $87.50 for 400 months, you paid $35,000 for borrowing $5 and paying on their terms.
That's crazy.
That's a bloody mess, isn't it? But
yes,
here's the thing. Not only is it crazy, it's normal. 21%. How many of you out there have an interest rate on a credit card that's in the 20% range? More than 21%, less than 21%, somewhere in the 20s. That's about the going rate of money, yes? So it happens to people all the time, and it erodes their ability to create freedom. So the first thing that we got to do is come up with plans and strategies to help people pay off their bills and their debts in record time. See, some of the folks that have been working with us using our system have created amazing results just with a part of our process to be in a position to where they can pay off their debts in record time. And as a matter of fact, let me share some of their talks. Now, Fabian, you've been through the debt reduction process, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Talk to us about what you had to do and what the system gave you on the back end. And this was specifically in terms of increasing your equity. Equity is the fancy word that the banks use for what we own.
Right.
So increasing your equity and decreasing your debt at the same time.
Right. Well, when it asked me to put all my debt in, so I put in my student loans, my mortgage, my car note, and those three. So I put all that stuff in, and then I just kept what I've been doing. The plan I thought I was doing was working. I thought it was good. Or I found a credit plan. But once I did the equity match for the experts, they said I get out of debt in about a year and a half faster than what I was doing.
Yep. And it's not just you and me, because a number of people, they come to us for advice. They don't know what to do. I mean, by the way, if you're out there and you don't know what to do, it's okay. Nobody taught us how to deal with these things. I know my strategy was I was trying to get out of debt by paying everybody $100 more per month. Right? It was like spinning in the wind.
You sound like me.
But watching the process, having access to the experts, they put together a plan that analyzed all of my creditors and all of the things that we owed. And now, so matter of fact, let me show you what the outcome looks like. And it's not just me, it's other people. So this young lady, she was going to be paying 111 years and 8 months, now done in 2 years, financially free, saving over $500,000 in interest, right? Or Tequila, is Tequila on the line? No, she's not here today, but I like talking about her story because again, 13 years versus 3, saving 44% of what she would pay in interest. And then there's mine, my real life. We're going to be in debt for 24 more years between just mortgages and student loans, but now be debt free, but no later than July 2029. And then actually set on a plan for establishing a debt-free millionaire date. And that's only one of the things that we offer. So in recapping, because I do want to make sure that we keep our conversation today brief, we got to get to the place where we get our financial houses in order. We got to get to the place where understanding where we are, the importance of this day, and creating new freedom for people in our lives, that the new free is debt free. on the way to becoming financially free, where we have more money at work than just the money that comes from our labor. And as a part of that process, just understand that it starts with creating freedom for yourself. So with that said, that's actually what I wanted to cover for our money lunch. I did want to make sure that everybody that knew about what we talked about has an opportunity to take advantage of ongoing financial education. So we're actually doing a series of events over the next 3 days, celebrating initially freedom from enforced slavery, but now helping people escape the bondage of volunteer slavery through debt and financial prison, and helping people grow and build a business. So if you're interested in any of those things, if you're interested in knowing more, send a message to me in inbox, say Juneteenth. Put that message in inbox on the comments, or let the person that invited you, whose watch party you're watching, let them know that Juneteenth is the beginning of a celebration of the new free, and that's financially free. And I'll just close with the words of one of the great emancipators of all times. As we get our house in order, remember Harriet Tubman said, "I freed 1,000 slaves, and I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves." Let's get our minds right. Let's get our money tight. Let's get out of debt and go to the next level together, because as we create wealth, as we create financial freedom for the people around us, we get to ask ourselves different questions about what's happening socially around us. No longer are we looking at our schools and our medical systems saying, well, what can we do to improve our schools? What can we do to improve the education? You got enough money in the right hands of the right people. We don't have to ask, what can we do? We can ask, what can't we do? Hey, this is Richard Harden signing off from Financial Fridays and another money lunch. Food for thought, food for your finances. We're building our own table. Let's eat.